世间所有的相遇，都是久别重逢。
清风明月如怀抱。
世间所有的相遇，都是久别重逢。
清风明月如怀抱。
世间所有的相遇，都是久别重逢。
清风明月如怀抱。
People who live in glass houses should not throw stones, right? It is a general, very typical parable, right? Knowledge, proverb, evolved over, I think, 500-600 years, right? I think everybody knows about it, right? Well, unfortunately, and lately, if you will, Anthropic got into Congress and played it out to the public live, right? And this is quite astonishing, right? And it's quite significant, right? It's going to impact the debate between the closed AI and open source AI, right? Closed for profit, right? But the narrative they provide, right? Democratic and others are thieves. Well, they are caught. They're stealing, right? They are the actual thieves, right? In a way, right? But seems to be the preserve or proud of their elite mindset, right? Try to manipulate the public as if they're all, less educated or whatever, right? But the implication is pretty far-fetching, right? We would have to pay some attention because it's going to impact many thousands of decision makers. Like some of those are executives in large businesses, right? How they're going to make a decision, especially approaching the open source versus closed AI kind of vendor selection, right? So I guess we need to spend some time to decipher some of the accusations and claims, right? The narratives, and expose the hypocrisy, right? So it is a battleground for sure, right? And I would speak more in a free form than just relying on the visuals, right, as the lead. I've been trained as a lawyer as well, right? So legally, right, it's a narrative, right? We have to analyze. We have to provide evidence, right? We have to find a way to damage control, like to the community, right? So really, that's what we set out to do. Okay, it may not be one conversation or one chat gonna fix all, but gradually it's evolving, right? If you remember a few months ago, OpenAI, Sam Altman also had the same claim. Those whoever the open source vendors distillation, right? Still this and that, but well, I think they're caught as well, right? Look at the current situation they are in, right? They're creating or committing, they're creating the narratives for sure to brand their own business for profitability, right? They accuse others the crime that they commit, right? It's not that hard to expose them, right? There's plenty of online sources, so many educated people, not only, a few who thought they're elites, knows about the business or technology, there are many, right? The open source community globally is quite vibrant, right? And that's really the true force push this innovation forward. And representation, obviously, previously, Young LeCun started Llama, right? Open source name. Hugging Face is the platform. Mistral, obviously, from France. And pioneers, obviously, the DeepSeek moment, the DeepSeek, Coin, JLM, Z AI, that's the new brand, right? Alibaba. The AI, part. Okay, and even OpenAI gradually has to open source some of their lightweight models, right? So are the others, right? So it probes the force of the open source approach, right? It benefits everybody, right? Think about it. AI models are trained by largely internet data, right? And those belong to the public, in the public domain. You use it for free. And many use the artworks of the musicians, artists. That's why they got a lot of lawsuits, like lately, from the Hollywood, right? About the writers, right? What about the trillion pieces, logs and conversations, blogs in a public site, each and every of us contribute, right? The fear is that if they are allowed to shamelessly claim this and accused of the open source community, who knows what they will do behind the closing doors, right? When they plug their closed AI into the large businesses, like, are they going to steal the data that they accuse others, right? So those are the questions, but technologically, we'll have to decipher that, right? Maybe they don't do it. Maybe it's not that feasible. Maybe there are ways to mitigate those risks from data leakage, right? Or the corporate secret, IP protected stuff, right? But it's not going to be an easy job, right? Especially you have those protectionist against the protagonist, right? Like they are holding the moral high ground or something, as if, right? They are the smartest and everybody else are dumb, right? They're just stupid. Quite the contrary, right? It's always the majority who poised to form the foundation of the wisdom in the long term, right? I would say you have to pay that respect. You have to pay back the whatever you used to train your own model, not just for benefit. Of course, every business needs to make some money, but again, you cannot just viciously tag the open source community, right? By picking on DeepSeek, JLM, or Minimax, right? Well, everybody knows what you're doing, right? So those are the background, if you will, right? So in short, the hypocrisy, right, this kind of accusation need to be taken seriously, right? Like think about from the banking executives or hospitals, right? If they pay everything, like closed AI, there'll be millions or even billions, right? What they're looking for, maybe that's the end game of making profit, more high margin, right? Only they know that how to do AI. then that's the control kind of mindset, elite kind of attitude, right? Arrogance, right? It's undeserved, really, right? The true realistic, sustainable approach would be local first, right? Make sure the data leaked, protected within enterprise network, right? And then when you only need those what they claim sophisticated model, like for coding, for example, AnswerPick is really strong at whatever that is workflow. OpenAI for making some, clips. And yeah, they're very good, but at what price, right? And what if they use your data for training their own model? Technologically, theoretically, and practically, we have to have ways to analyze, decipher it, and also making laws to make sure that we're all protected, right? They're also making a profit, right? But not in the case they use our enterprise data, training their own model, or accusing others open source, which, much cheaper and economic, sustainable, which cannot, because you bring open source into your own house, right? You build it as if you own it, right? How can they steal your data? Tell me, right? Tell me, right? But you can accuse them, right? False claims everywhere. It's always, play that kind of protectionist, you are superior, or you're holding a moral high ground, which is quite the contrary, isn't it? Right? And if you go down that path close to AI, you stockpiling of these high-end chips, you burn how many trees, how much water, right? Energy, right? Is that sustainable? And people are paying high price for the end model, the result you provide, using all those resources. Do you realize all those resources belong to the public as well? Not only you, right? Yeah, those are the questions, right? You have to find a way to. Open source is not just a thought, approach. It is very consequential, right? We need to, break down the barriers, not building fortress, right? Worse still, you cannot accuse people in the crime that you commit, right? And open source is probably the DeepSeek way is probably the way forward, right? To do the same with much economic approaches. Doesn't matter resources, chips, infrastructure, hardware, this. All resources belong to the human species, right, on Earth, right? Why not benefit everybody globally rather than just benefit a few, right? So think about it, right? It's not that hard to think, but decipher the internals. Legally analyze it, you probably need some experts like me, right? But there are many, of course. There are plenty of going to be. You look at CNBC, you look at many other BBC. It's going to be jump on this, right? Because it's quite significant. It's worthy your attention to really do damage control of your own analysis, right? Because it impacts you how we're going to embrace AI, especially agentic, enterprise AI, to build your own platforms, tech stacks, millions of innovators, startups, how they're going to survive, right? Make a living as well, right? If everybody closed up, nobody can do AI, only a few. What a world we're going to live in, right? Think about it. What's the implication? What's the consequence? How damaging that could be, right? Some people are audacious. That's okay. But some people are shameless, right? So they claim that 24,000 fake accounts extracted there, manned. Okay, that's the claim. So what's the proof? Frankly, by and large, they are blocked away by sanctions or by whatever national security measures taken by the state. They don't have access at all, right? while especially those public resources on the West, like DeepSeek, do not have access, right? They are blocked. While at the same time, the companies like Anthropic and OpenAI, they use for free, right? And training their closed AI models, right? And sell it for high profit. Now they come back, falsely accuse others as protectionists, right? They are protectionists. They are neutral, right? They protect democracy and so on and so forth, right? Those are the hypocrisy. Not only that, it's quite serious, right? They are caught. Plenty of evidences. They are doing that, right? But they accuse others of the crime they commit. That is my judgment in short, in a nutshell, right? But we'll find out more. I'm not here to judge anybody, but we'll look at the evidence. It's going to play out, right? Those who are so arrogant and so shameless, right? It's not going to do good in the business world either, right? It's going to impact their business, the way how they conduct it, right? Maybe in the short term, they may make a profit, and make even use it as if, against the Congress, whoever, the government, to build a brand, and, do some market commercials, have some. It's fine. But long term, you are who you are. You're going to be exposed, right? I mean, looking at it, I always say that Anthropic and OpenAI belong together, right? Although they refuse to shake hands, but eventually they may hug each other, reunite, right? They are the same, if I may say that, the same spirit, the same approach, same attitude. They should belong together, right? Okay? Maybe they're going to one acquisition or whatever, merger, reunite, right? Now, is it hard? Look at it. You don't need to know the chemistry to steal the flavor. Okay, that's true, right? Distillation. But distillation is the standard way of AI training as well, right? Everybody using that, including Anthropic and OpenAI, right? Do they not use it? Well, if you try to fool the people who don't understand technology, you probably can get away with it, right? But the truth is, the open community, almost everybody using it, right? It's like a student go to a professor's class, lecture, right? They paid for that, and they learn it. They use the knowledge to do their work. What's wrong with it? Of course, I mean, many years of experience. That's why you become a professor, right? If they paid for you, right? Like, in this case, DeepSeek or JLM, they're blocked from using your stuff at all, right? How do they even, they're forbidden to go to your class. And how do they, some allegedly false account, whatever. What is evidence? How do you know? If it's false, it's, if some, account, how do you really can put a sticker that is DeepSeek or JLM or whatsoever? Yeah, you can easy to make an impression that, plant in people's mind that they're the bad guys and you're good, you're protecting. But you're not, really. In fact, they're making really good innovations, especially look at JLM and DeepSeek, right? They have in the, papers as a proof, right? Where are your papers? You copy them for free, are you not? And turn around and accuse them. You're probably harvesting from the open source community, right? And then you, turn around and try to close down, villainize everybody in the open source community and impacting the actual potential buyer as a client of yours, right, to pay high price to get your closed AI. Maybe you succeed in the short term. In the long term, it's going to be deleterious to everybody, including you yourself, right? Is that clear? Yeah, we know this solution. Okay, that's what you try to villainize, right? These three folks, right? But look at it, shape the band, right? API case, some loopholes for sure, right? They could also come back and accuse you, can they not? Probably actually did it as well, right? Did you hear anybody claim that? That's baseless, shameless claims, right? In a legal term, you already committed crime on that base alone. Okay? You steal the ingredients, I steal the milk. Okay, that's good. 20 billion lessons in obsolescence, right? The IBM stock price crash, right? See? There's always, are you really able to recreate the mainframe? But either way, you just bodaciously claim they could, right? It caused quite stir in the market, right? It cost IBM a lot of money, right? This kind of practice is a business tactic, but it on the expense of what? The integrity is gone, right? Anybody can claim this, but can you deliver? That's the question. I bet you cannot, right? You take one of the whichever SAP or mainframe, doing anything like easier thing, really, you know. Can you really replace that IBM mainframe? Have you ever really worked there? Do you understand it? Yeah. I mean, you so shamelessly claim that, right? Do you actually know that? Have you written one line of code there? These people are irresponsible, shameless, right? The Pentagon ultimatum, right? Deploy for all lawful uses. Well, I'm pretty sure they're going to use this bragging about how morally superior they are. You know, they're the protectionist, whatever, right? Uncovering an industrial scale data theft pipeline. The stakes, right? Cloud is the only LLM currently on the US military's classified secret network, right? Are they not using that data? DoD, and now Department of War, right? Refused to let the private company decide ethics. Well, okay, not try to say who is right, who is wrong, right? The demand immediately integrate into the secret military networks. Threat designation supply chain risk, meaning they're going to pull it out of the supply chain, right? Red lines. No autonomous targeting, right? No domestic surveillance. Okay. Constitution. No AI. That's the Anthropic claim. Okay. The first destroy the reputation. The steal the contract. Wow. So the high stakes investigative, right? The Anthropic, XAI. Oh, I think Elon Musk countered. Well, you are the one who committed crime, right? Debated ethics, XAI agreed to all lawful uses. Anthropic is now isolated, right? Because really everybody using the same tactic, right? It is quite a normal practice. Distillation, what's wrong with that? In AI training, why do you have to retrain everything? Why? You know, do we relearn everything? We're not going to university. We just relearn everything, discover everything ourselves. No, we don't, right? The open cloud incident, why the red line matter, right? See, this is the damage, right? So the Pentagon wants unrestricted AI, but current agents delete their own safely instructions when memory gets full. It's also, I don't know, like breach of trust. Doesn't matter how you pronounce it. It doesn't sound correct to me, right? The three-front wall investigative uncovering an industry-scale data set, right? The claim, right? Copyright and Pentagon, right? It's quite interesting. What if China sue you as well? Like DeepSeek or whoever you accused of. They can also sue you, right? They probably have more evidence, frankly, because you copy their paper, right? You use it. Well, that's what open source is for, right? But the acquisition on the ground of distillation is to try to play forward, right? Okay, the year the gray zone disappears, the big question, who controls AI? Right? Who controls the internet, right? You know, why do we price data? Where is the red line, right? Okay. Yeah, Anthropic is for human, but are you the villain or are you the human, right? What part are you in, right? Think about it again, right? So the AI glass house is quite easy, right? So those who live in glass house shouldn't throw stones, right? Strategic divergence, regulatory compliance, and battle for AI dominance. Its implications, right, especially to my clients and myself, right? If I don't have open source AI, right, I cannot afford to run a business, right? I cannot pay those tokens, you know, how many dollars per token, right? It's kind of insane. Frankly speaking, you use a public data train your model, right? And if those open source models not exist, it would charge more. Think about it. That's the first benefit to the public. And you turn around and accuse them, right? That's, to me, it's insane. Not only shameful, it's also criminal, right? It's not morally high. It's very morally debased. The four-stage strategic archetype, right? The pervasive platform, right? The risk, you know, the incubant, the shifting towards sort of consumer and enterprise, right? The sovereign ecosystem, right? Local first, right? Data never leave the jurisdiction or even the enterprise, the network, right? Safety by design. It's all leaned towards open AI more. Sorry, I mean open source AI, not the open AI. Now open AI become closed source, right? Sometimes to confuse the term. Well, there are lawsuits from Elon Musk against OpenAI and Microsoft, right? We're going to watch for that, right, in California. The focus of the Constitution AI, this Anthropic slogan, right? The higher road challenger, right? Well, strategic alliance, AWS, Accenture, right? The efficiency disruptor. Okay, what is that? Cost, performance, open source, right? The commoditizer, weaponizing efficiency, right? Training cost, right? Okay. So the glass box, right, architecture, black box, right, security camera, and glass box auditability. We need explainability. We need some transparency by regulations. Not everything, obviously. Algorithm is algorithm. There are trillions of billions of parameters. It's hard to really make sure that each and every one is explainable, you know. But in general, you should have some sufficient transparency. Right? Worse still, you cannot claim one thing and do the other, right? The model governance, right? The sovereign enclaves, right? The deterministic grounding, the evidence grounded, right? The ontology part, right? The RAG, okay? and the temporal data lineage, right? We need to have traceability, right? Slowly changing dimensions, right? It's quite a significant for our business to run, to sustain, right? Then distillation attack, right? That's what they are accused of, right? Now the hypocrisy backlash, right? The attack is distillation, right? Saying that, which is untrue in my opinion. Maybe some, everybody's doing it, right? Smog, sanctions, and hypocritical. That's from Elon Musk, right? While at the same time, Anthropic taking the, S3 from the books, the YouTube, the shadow libraries, and the community and data, public side data, right? Are they paying for that? Are they paying for that? I don't know. It's kind of amazing, right? They turn around and kills others, right? The paradox is quite obvious. The claiming the moral high ground on IT theft while they're committing the crime even worse. The fundamental model is built on scrapped data, right? If you call that stealing, you are stealing, right? Let's see if distillation is true. They're still paying for that. And are you paying for the public knowledge? I never seen a paycheck. You use my data. Should I sue you? Again, I need evidence. But what's your evidence? They are not even having access to your network, to your account, right? And how do they do that? And even if they did it, think about it. Legally speaking, they paid for it, right? So what's wrong with it? Scientifically sound, legally it's okay. So what are you doing? What is your base, legal base, or moral ground? What is that? Well, you should open, right? Don't just throw the slogans around, a catchy line, right? Pretend you're superior or smart, right? You're not. Really you're not. You're committing a very foolish crime, in my opinion. It's going to damage you, pretty sure, right? Let's see, it will play out. You may hold a couple of days fame, but eventually it's not a good way to do business, in fact. You cannot just try to outsmart everybody, right? And especially against the open community, the public interest. While at the same time you commit all kind of fishy, kind of secretive, we call it theft. Maybe you're doing exactly that, right? The Pentagon side, I leave it alone. I don't have a lot, right? They might have a way to play the card, but they might have to, follow. Again, they will find another way to be very persuasive, right? Global symmetry, right? Okay. DeepSeek, organized efficiency, innovation, mixture of expert, multi-headed latent attention, and multi-for doing more with less, training cost, and about 6 million versus US 100 million, right? Invasion, acquisition illegally, right? Blackball. Well, now they can use the domestic. They try to sell more, right? Those I cannot be sure, right? Maybe some, right? It's going to be some. Okay. What is this? The civil war. OpenAI versus Scientific. These two are fighting, right? It's funny, right? It's quite natural, right? They're attacking everybody, and everybody in that nature will attacking each other, right? My judgment is some more politically savvy, right? Maybe he doesn't have a PhD, but again, he's a good politician. the pervasive brand, right? The safe choice, the founder, right? And the public benefit core, right? Safety by design, whatever you call it, right? I just don't want to, you know, like interesting to observe. The raised IPO, they all want to go IPO. Okay. And the market positioning, okay? They're all competing in the same space very soon, right? They should merge. They should, in my opinion, should merge, right? Market positioning. OpenAI Consumer Plus platform came. Anthropic, the adult in the room. I doubt it. Just listening the rhetoric, you know, listening the parable kind of way position themselves. They're not the adult. It's quite foolish. Presidents, bankers, comparing this to the Uber versus Lyft IPO battle, right? Yeah, you never know, right? They maybe get IPO, and they may go some mileage there, right? The reshaping the stack, the Douyin paradox. What is exponential, right? Bank efficiency, commoditized of the intelligence, right? That's cool, right? I mean, inference is not a matter, right? I mean, training is cheaper. Now what the innovation comes, breakthrough from DeepSeek. The inference also way cheaper, right? They're running on the domestic chips, the infrastructure there. So way cheaper, right? Much cheaper, in my opinion, right? And supply is almost endless. They're quickly catching up. It's not that hard. It's just science, right? The question is, can they really innovate? I see some pro. I'm expecting to see more, right? They have talents there. They have to debunk the perception that the Chinese folks cannot innovate. It's kind of false, whatever, you know, institutionally, you know, labeled like that, right? For a purpose, for a while, maybe for a couple hundred years, but eventually that's not gonna, that sticker will come down, come out, right? Come off. Look at the sheer number of talent there, right? The AI community, especially, you know, in China and in the US, how many of the AI research and product building business teams in AI are actually the Chinese classmates of those who work for DeepSeek and JLM, you know, Minimax, and so on and so forth, right? They probably graduated to the same university in China, right? Think about that. Maybe soon they'll be accused of, you know, espionage, right? Everybody's some sort of, you know, a threat. Hey, you could go that far, right? That's not good, really. I mean, you should collaborate more. Competition is good. And compete in a regulated, cohesive way, not just vicious attacks, right? Accusations, basically, you know, lawsuits, right? Or try to gain your high ground morally. Nobody's ass is clean, I'm telling you, right? Really? I mean, the fragility of the leadership, right? Transparency is competitive advantage in compliance with a vulnerability in war. Success is no longer about the smartest model, but the best strategic fit, sovereignty versus efficiency versus safety. In a world of glass houses, the winner isn't who has the most stones, it's who builds the strongest frame. Strategic moat, right? What is that? How do you make money? Doesn't matter you're closed AI or open AI, open source AI, how do you make money? That's the question. What I want to remind you, especially the new startups, your competitors are not really in the technology, in the workforce, in the whole economy that's you're competing with. Don't limit yourself to this glass box. Right? That's what I'm trying to say. But it's not easy to get it. Right? Okay, another part of the AI application, right? The new speed of innovation, right? You cannot just innovate in AI alone. It is quite interconnected. It's an industrial effort, right? And you look at the taxi permits, the low space kind of transportation. And if you look at our model, right, on the left is Lyft. It's one of them. Law, industry, finance, and transport. Right on the right, the workforce. That's the arms, right? You know what I mean, right? The arms, thinking of war and risks, right? And the shift from garage factories in Silicon Valley. Every garage is a startup. Here you actually see garage factories, right? Software iteration, hardware iteration. Software, hardware should be just dogmatically separate. They are together, especially in the era of physical AI, embedded AI, we're living in, or we're marching towards so aggressively, right? Without even realizing we're there, right? And 30-minute supply chain, right? That's the advantage thing. I haven't been to China for like 20 years or so, right? My memory, maybe 40 years ago, right? I may sound like, I'm speaking for China. Really not. I'm speaking for myself, right? My opinion only. I don't represent anybody, right? And if you got a wrong impression, sorry, my apologies there. I'm doing business, right? I have to protect my interest, my client's interest, especially in the closed AI. If that become the only standard, everybody lose, right? You're going to pay more, you get worse product and services, and they're going to steal your data for training, right? It is open source may not be as, they may not have a flashy, catchy line, but at least they hold the closed AI box accountable, right? Not behave too much, beyond the line, right? They want to be tempting too, of course, for higher margin profit, use your data for free, right? They exhausted public data. Now they want to get into the hospitals, the banks, the private chambers of businesses, use your data for free, right? Of course, who knows what slogan they come out, right? Maybe constitution or sovereign or protected or angelic or heaven. You never know, right? They're very innovative in that space. So, yeah, of course, they have own interest. The person may be fantastic, but if they're doing business like I am, right? You have to protect yourself. But there's a limit, right? You have to be truthful in a way, right? Not villainize people, not accuse them the crime you commit, right? That's going too far, in my opinion. Okay, iteration, the speed of software. Okay, we're talking about the Shenzhen, right? It's delivering eggs, right? Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. What is this? Ping pong. All right, ping pong ball. PCB fabrication in US 2 to 3 weeks, costing $100 USD. In Shenzhen, China, PCB fabrication costs $7 USD. It's 2 days. Access to component variety drives cross-industry innovation into discipline. Trainer balls creator sourced the models from, okay, yeah, they're picking a ball in the training ground. It's pretty good. I wish I had one of those, right? Two things I want to have, right? Really, A snow blower, like if it is a robot, could do that. I've broken my back last year, right? Canada, US, right? It's a lot of snow, couple of years, right? The other, well, when I playing the tennis, right? If you have a robot picking up those, it's good, right? It saved me a lot of time. Especially my back is not that good, right? So I love it, right? But on the business side, we love to see that the turnaround, basically open source community, right? When I build my local run kind of enterprise agentic AI, right? You have to security first, right? How do you make security first? You have to be able to enforce some sort of control, governance, right? If everything on the closed AI in their cloud, right, how do you even know what they're doing, right? Yeah, contractually trust it, but contract cannot be written like a novel, right? Million lines, right? And you cannot detail everything. If you were do some sort of contractual work for large business, you know how tedious it is, right? So detailed, right? But again, it's a lot of loopholes, right? Okay, so what is it beyond the selfie? Right? Okay, the DDI. I think, try to catch some thoughts, right? Open source AI is very critical and probably fundamental, going to determine how enterprise agentic AI is going to work out. Eventually, I would think that each and every large business or a domain list, right, should have their private operating system. That's what I'm building, constitute of the models that of their own, build upon or leverage or customize from whatever model, open source models, particularly due to the openness, right? Everything is open, you can use, right? You can develop your own, and then plus your business ontology, right? Obviously, you need your data model, business process model, right? The human customer kind of profiling and risk and everything, right? It is constitute a business. You're doing a business. Even without AI, even without technology at all, you still have to be very clear. Like commanding an army. You don't need to have AI to command them, right? You can draw on a paper, you just tell them, right, verbally, how to defend, how to attack, which position they should, cut in, right? When do they retreat and why, how you communicate. It doesn't need AI, really. Those are the business, like humans, right? We don't even need any technology, right? Maybe it's exaggerated. We do need some technology. What I'm saying is in AI era, the spirit of sovereign AI and sovereign robotics is my kind of tagline, if you will. For the enterprise, agentic AI is essential, right? If everything becomes dictated by the closed AI, like Anthropic or OpenAI, the claim, right? Then we're in a really bad state, right? Then AI would die, frankly speaking, right? Or we all become kind of dictated, controlled, right? Yeah, AI is no longer beneficial to the human beings. It's going to be just another wheel of control, right? Thinking about it, it's against humanity. It's against us all. What is this? Agriculture, right? Faster. Drone visualize visual and thermal imaging to assess crop health and spraying only affected areas rather than blanket spraying fields, reducing waste. Israel has excellent agricultural technology, right? I guess they might use this, right? And China learned from Israel quite a bit, and Japan used to have this. China copied a lot of stuff, for sure. They learned a lot, very aggressive in earnest in learning, right? But they cannot say that learning is a crime, right? Yeah, not everything. As I said, nobody else is clean, and you have to be different, discerning this and that, right? You cannot just blanketly accuse people as if you are holding the moral high ground. You are not, right? You may be worse. Who knows, right? Again, if you have evidence, fine, right? Otherwise, you get in a dogfight. Right? So exporting the ecosystem, right? I think, right, one way or the other, the autonomous frontier safety architecture. All right. What is it? Geometric to semantic understanding. Those are good niche areas. WeChat. Yeah, WeChat is something that you need to watch, right? It's not really that active compared to Alibaba and others in the AI. But they use some, right? Building on models as well. But it's not that large, like all-in strategy like Alibaba, right? Really defined by the founder, Ma Huateng, right? It's kind of characteristics of the company as well, right? It's what I advocate, right? You look at the founder or key decision maker, like CEOs, founders who are sitting on the board of directors, right? Who are the influencer, right? You probably can tell, it's like a fortune telling, right? The prediction, but where the company will go, how successful they are, what kind of product they produce, right? Like Eric Schmidt and Hasselbe's are making a lot of decisions, dragging the decision direction of Google to the right track, right? Right path. That's important, right? But you're looking at Microsoft, kind of weakened, right? They want to be smart and they pretend to be smart, but they make foolish, not so smart decisions, right? It will show over time. That's what I'm saying. Look at IBM, right? Look at what Adobe, right? They used to love those tools, but where are they now, right? And come back to the Anthropic and OpenAI. Look at the leadership there. You cannot. I mean, again, it's going to define the enterprise, the product you release, right? If you go on this route, right, they're not going to benefit your business, right? Because you are your business, right? Your business are you, right? And the scale AI, Alexander Wang, if I may, if I look at this young folk, right, it's very intelligent, very talented, very intelligent, smart, and very ambitious. But it seems to be part of the grown-up is too pro that viciousness kind of win and win and win, right? Lack the moral character, ethical kind of neutralization, right? The Chinese individual, I think, he should embrace some of the more humanity or pro-human kind of thinking. That's not really good for your health, but good for your business as well, right? End of the day, you have to take a position, whatever you deliver, whatever you build, benefit the humans, right? That's my position, right? And if you don't, mark my word, they're going to come back and bite you, backlash as well, right? So those are the, I don't know, I'm pretty sure not many, watch this kind of material that I make, but if they do, somehow using their tools or intelligence, just take as my advice, right? It's good for yourself, right? I'm not trying to criticize anybody, not the Anthropic, not OpenAI, not Scale AI, not Microsoft, not Google or IBM, nobody, right? Or Adobe. Just my honest advice to your benefit, right? And to the benefit of us all, right? Especially me, right? I want to live in a world that we are all humans, right? Respect each other, not viciously attacking each other, right? This is a general public interest that we need to protect. All of us have the responsibility to protect that, right? Also, you look at the environment, we have to sustain that, right? Anything that you do We cannot on the ground on the expense of destroying the environment we live in, destroy the human fabric we forged together as a civilization, right? As a world, right? But that's the basics, right? Strategy to hyperlocalization. Okay, repeating the same modern channels, traditional values. Well, okay, not sure what it says. It's exporting. Doesn't matter. Asian has a lot of malicious kind of things as well, right? Don't bullshit too much there. The new innovation roadmap: velocity, necessity, and integration. Okay. This is no longer copying. Well, there's still the perception, right? It's defining the roadmap through a matched speed and total integration. Yeah, I hope that's true. It is an article from one of the VC, right? I listened to them, summarized a bit, right? The rise of agent in a crypto payment era, right? When the robots have the bank accounts, what do you think? They become a sovereign robotic being, right? They can hold a bank account, right? One way is not like they become accumulate wealth for their family, which they don't, right? But holding them accountable, right? Think about it. And also governance, right? Okay, security, like, some, I think Bank of New York, Mellon, right? They do this, right? Give each of them an intra ID, right? A syndicate, authorized, right? Traceability, accountability, but clear. One way to think about it, right? And the internet is going agent native. Okay, the new browsers came out, right? And also Salesforce is quite aggressive on that, right? Force AI or AI Force, whatever that is. I need to take a deeper dive on that as well, right? The unbanked balls, right? You cannot operate much. I use it, I think I should be able to push it out, but I haven't really go that far yet. The trust deficit. Why we don't bank? Well, hallucination, annoying, but harmless, right? Hallucination, catastrophic, once in financial or life science, right? For example, traffics. Defining the AI bank, the customer, and the brain, all right, and the rails. The infrastructure for software to transact safely, right? Eventually we'll be getting there. May not be in the exact same form, right? The KYC and the KYE. Important, KYE. We cannot rely on manual human review. Identify must be encoded into the software itself using cryptography. This creates a public utility for trust. Proving a robot is who it claims to be. That's important, right? I like this idea. That's why I put it here. We always blending the three things together because that's our job, that's our business purpose. We define the human, the ontology, which is the business, and the wealth, that's on the national level, of course, impacting the business, the major vehicle, and also the individuals, you and our families, right? You and me, right? So we're drifting from humans and AI and down to the ontology and then to the world, the finance, right? Deterministic control of a probabilistic agent, that's important. That's where the AI meeting the traditional business logic. We need deterministic control, right? AI give you the probabilistic. And the dollars in the internet real. Yeah, it's quite, I like these visuals, right? I can describe for 10 minutes, may not even so effective. What it means, the rails need to be modernized. That's what I keep seeing. The layer 2 of my 6-layer business architecture is infrastructure, right? including the rule of law, right? How we govern, right? The robotics, right? And the legacy banking rail is quite archaic, right? Like SWIFT, right? Like real-time payment, ACH, right? We're dealing with it every day. And on internet rails, we need USDC, USDA, USDT, you name it, a lot of stable coins. The digital renminbi in the Middle East and UK, they all come out like a Mika. That's something that is part of our business. We have to watch very carefully. Those are good, right? And the autonomy spectrum, right? How autonomous you want to be, and the missing link. You know what is SL? It's like one of the protocol, right? Security layer, right? The internal part, right? And the lack of the universal standard for secure agent-to-agent, right? Communication and payment. The current state is comparable to the pre-SSL internet, fragmented and insecure, right? Agent node, HTTP, SMS, voice, protocol unknown, universal protocol missing, right? It's like blockchain, the one innovation that I highly respect, right? And they need interoperability, right? Chainlink, one of them, right? And JP Morgan, they have on board some other, I forgot the name, right? And HSBC, some of them are enterprise grade, some are public, some are private, right? So, but essentially interoperability, right? The missing link. What if you have hundreds of thousands of robotic or agent there doing all kind of monitoring, securitization, right? Clearance, exchange, transaction, right? Think about it. You need such a communication strategy and protocol, right? You need a new architecture, essentially, right? And then adding the OLL trap, vertical. Okay? Early internet users were trapped or in a walled garden like AL, American Land, and the age folks still remember the Prodigy, and without, yeah, you should remember, I think back in 2000 or so, the Napster, right, got in big trouble, right? You know, it's like there's some sort of thing we could learn, but again, every time it's new, although the pattern may be similar, you cannot just assume they're the same, right? And the challenge isn't technology, it is the getting incumbents to agree on the shared language, right? And what's the best form of that? Open source, right? Community building, consortium, right? That's what democracy is, okay? Not the couple of elites. You pretend to be smart or superior, come to do a rule and see everybody else is bad. I'm the king, right? Follow me. I'm closed AI. It's not the way to do that. All right, let's be on point. The four stakeholders in fintech: engineering, product, sales, and the international orange, the strategic foundation. You cannot build financial rails without a regulatory playbook, right? It's not just a constraint, it is a requirement for trust, right? Some from the accounting trap, right? The worst outcome is building amazing stuff nobody wants, but the danger of listening only to Sam is that you never build the generation platform. Sam from accounting. What is it? Let's take a look at that. A new level of prosperity. When trust is solved, agents become the safest, most efficient steward of capital. We are unlocking a level of economic activity the world has never seen yet, right? Identity, KYA, control, policy to prevent runaway spending, rails and programmable dollars, internet speed commerce, right? The infrastructure is being built, agents are waiting. So catchy words, right? I'm not going to dive too much, right? The AI strategist from mindset to market shockwave, right? But we have to navigate personal, organizational, and economic realities of the AI, age of AI, or AI era, whatever you call it. It's from NYU, New York University, right? The Wall Street Journal, right? So it is like the entry level of execution, right? Thinking of new graduates, right? It's kind of a challenge, right? So AI somehow not adapted to that level. If they are, it's going to be impacting the new entrants, right? That's why I'm emphasizing the older like workers may be have a new opportunity to reincarnate, right? Because they have the know-how, the business knowledge, the world experience, the real ones, right? Then they can use AI to replicate that, right? To compensate their, not so agile or not so energetic, right? But it's like the industrialization makes the other half of the population, like women, the part of the workforce, because we don't have to go and out the forest to catch bears, right? You don't need to be super strong. As you can lead the train and operate the machine, you're able to earn a living, right? So that makes a difference. Okay, in the age of AI, programming become very soon solved, right? Okay, like the DeepSeek moment defines the LLM thing solved. Okay, so no mystery anymore. Everybody should be able to do it, right? I can do it with my bare hand now. Okay, give them a 5909 RTX, I would be able to do it, right? It's not easy. Many people can do it, right? So we have to march towards how we put into the real practice and use it effectively for our benefit, right? Not only making money, but benefit us, right? Those are the true challenges. Okay, the infrastructure is the only safe harbor, right? Microsoft, AWS, and Oracle, right? Agents need a home to live in, whether software is built, they require computer and storage, right? The hailstorm, the horizontal SaaS, niche apps, simple workflows, highly vulnerable to being vibe coded away by smart prompts, right? Yeah, that's one of the things we need to watch, right? SaaS, right? It didn't really catch on, in my opinion, right? Maybe in the West it did, right? But in the China part, as I heard, it's not so good, not so profitable at least, right? But now the AI invasion, right, as some perceive that, is that going to destroy the SaaS part of the market? Maybe that trigger a new wave of acquisition and merger, right? So what is the impact to the financial world? That's what we need to observe, right? Those are business opportunities, not just for fun. You can't vibe code liability, right? The case of Intuit, right? The TurboTax, I used to use it. If OpenAI does your taxes and gets it wrong, you face the tax office yourself, right? You'll be paying penalty or being prosecuted, right? And they have a lot more to explain to you, have all the traceabilities. They made a decision based on all the data points, right? So who is going to be accountable though? You can vibe coding, but a human is still accountable. Regulatory complexity and the need for a system of record protect the major players, right? The CEO won't risk payroll or IFRS filing and a hallucinating agent, right? You need certainty, right? The MI merger and acquisition is what I have tried to anticipate, right? The dry powder in private equity, point solution die, platform survive, Okay. Strategic synthesis, right? The bad and the infrastructure and data models, modes and void horizontal south look for consolidation. Right? The second tier is secure data, measured output, result driven, right? And don't just by seeds measure the output of synthetic tunes, right? Overcome search engine bias, become the core CEO of your AI agent, build context. The technology is uncertain, but the winning behavior, adaptability, deep context, infrastructure ownership are the winners. Right? Quite certain. Oh, like this visual, right? Don't focus on the treadmills, but on the shows. Okay. It doesn't matter which model is better today. The barrier is in the technology. It's the behavioral friction of starting, right? And build habit, invite the critique, reinvent the process before the market reinvents for you, right? I truly believe this, right? Because I've day in, day out think and building in AI and robotics for years, right? At least past 3 to 5 years, maybe 3, realistic speaking. Become part of my habit. My brain rewired, I believe, right? Refabricated somewhere biologically. But I cannot not think or look or talk, and do this kind of AI and robotics. Not anymore. I have to do it. Right? Somehow it feels uneasy. It's like you don't have a coffee in the morning. You just cannot wake up. Same thing here. I cannot sleep if I don't do this. Because it's very, very critical for our human beings, right? No matter you want to make money or you want better health, redefine your life, your family, your business, ontology. It's very essential, right? You cannot live without it. It becomes so essential, right? Yeah, it's a new kind of drugs, if you will. I mean, or alcohol or whatever, the caffeine, right? It's a new kind of energy, food and drinks, right? You need it. I need it. I cannot not, sit here and this thinking, even my walking, right, or sleeping. I cannot stop. It's getting into my, cells, right, brains and hearts and everywhere, right? And because part of me, right, redefining me at least, right? So, let's look at another renaissance of physicality, right? Escaping the software saturated world through the hard tech co-design. It's merging together software and hardware, embodied AI. That's what I propose, right? Many years ago, right? 25, 23, I don't know. I proposed intelligent model, right? Give brain to each and every piece of tools and machines that I use. I can put my hands on, right, or eyes on, right? Eventually it become a reality, right? That's a miracle of life, right? It's like a dream, right? Couple decades, right? Oh, dream come true. Where I'm living in dreams that when I, used to try to build, right? That's a miracle of life, right? And the thermal grill illusion, right? Where the brain rejects the false economy, the software is eating the world, right? Yeah, like Anderson was Netscape, right? I think. Anderson, right? Who was curated and sold it to somewhere, right? Forgot it. Yeah, you have a lot of things, right? It's like a plate and a stove, right? Your brain burns, right? Pains you, right? Software, hardware, it had to come together, right? You look at it, okay, that's what it is. Pain and burn, the illusion of wind, cool software and warm hardware are disjointed. The brain perceives a burning sensation. True, right? You have to work together. BIOS is for that, right? Assembly era, the assembly language, is very close to the circuits that I probably know by heart, right? You have to send signal by signal, right? Precisely. Eventually, capitalist have a unique capacity to say things that both emphatically right and emphatically wrong in the same sentence. Frankly, I don't get it. I don't know what it tried to say. Cost of abstraction is goes in the machine, right? Okay, the hardware demon. A CPU pin waiting for a keyboard that will never exist. Left floating, it crashes the entire system. Oh. Wow. It's essential, right? Fabrication fabs, right? And the holistic builder replacing the black box with the glass box. Cool. People are really serious about software should make their own hardware. Well, that goes too far, right? I'm going to stay probably in the top for 3 layers, right? I'm not prepared to go to the chips and computing, the hardware part. Maybe, who knows, right? Maybe the top tier would have some sort of hardware. It's got robotics, right? Yeah, it's true. Let's see. The new consumer formula, hardware plus AI equal magic. Robotics, what magic? I don't know. The definition of magic, lowering the barrier to entry for complex skills, right? Skills and result and course and theory. In 5 minutes, you get mastery of the guitar. And astral photography result democratized in the cosmos. Wow. And industrial tinkering, right? The neglect, yeah. The old times, right? The plans like reliability, right? The Greek tinker, friction, the mass market demands. That's the magic. Wow. It's pretty telling, right? I didn't fully get it, but maybe. The supply chain dividend from CapCat to high definition. Okay. Shenzhen, right? Engineer surplus. The market wars first to the defined category and not the first to drop the price. Okay. And the battle for the, what is this? Interface. The AOS war. BIOS, AOS, right? Then incumbent silo, the challenger system access, the glasses, the bracelet, the pendants, and the necklace, the no lexicon code, dedicated AI agent, local run, right? You need a battery? Maybe a very efficient battery, right? Energy, ghost in the shell, utility. Fear giving the AI system permission, protecting the app store mode, right? The conflict is ecosystem hugging lock-in versus agent breaking interoperability, right? Quite telling. I like this. And the tech stack of the mind, why summaries kill strategy, input, raw complexity in processes, struggle, persist of wisdom, not for strategic truth, right? But summary, bypassing part. Bypassing the pain, you bypassing the gain. That's all it is, right? The machine gives you the map, not the journey, right? Precisely, right? Square one is physical. All right. True. And the founder archetype, the destined one, right? Consistency, preparing for this intersection their whole life, toughness, thrive on the horrible problems, right? Detail obsession, pixel perfection, hardware, the litmus test. They want to do this even if the market crashed tomorrow. They're not crashing, chasing the trend. They are fulfilling the function. Cool. Like those catchy words, right? It's not like to be that catchy, but tell something that I want to know. I want to say, right? See it better. Cool. And the convergence, the unite the theory of everything, the hard tech, right? Macro hard, right? That's versus Microsoft. You know, my one is macro. Politics, right? before them, right? If you claim that IP probably mine, the holistic builder the philosophy strategic choose square one is physical and no AI shortcut, right? Interface, consumer magic AI plus what? Where the glass box for the user, the infrastructure, co-design foundation, no black boxes, systematic reliability. It's all good. And touch the metal. Good. Yeah. Stop treating software and hardware as enemies. The future belongs to those who build the whole system. Okay. Okay, let's call it a day today. Right?
人生几何？譬如朝露去日苦。